turn a light on or something.
How did you spell it?
I don't know. Turn a light on.
Skin A. Does it show?
No, but we can change it later.
Fine. Let's keep that up for later then.
Yeah, keep it up for later, you stupid dog. Oh. We're live.
Oh, we are?
Yeah. Welcome to the Holler Horror Hour. I'm Benzie.
And I'm Devin.
Holler is the second part of both those names that I forgot.
What?
And we recently watched Skinamarink, finally.
Experienced Skinamarink.
But instead of doing it the same day, we waited a few days because in my brother's analysis video, he said it took a few days to really get to you.
Yeah, and actually that was good because I totally forgot that I watched that movie by the third day.
Neither of us particularly enjoyed the experience.
No, we were. To say that it was a bad watching experience. I think that's the only way to say it, really.
I do think because of how much we both disliked it, we should start by trying to do the 5 things we liked.
Which we did list out as soon as we got through it. You know, that was.
But that was sarcastic. We were like, that it ended.
Well, I mean, one of the things I said was I was impressed they were able to find like such grainy footage.
Well, they didn't find it. They made it.
They made it. Yeah, I was impressed that they made such grainy footage. I don't know if I could list even 5 things about it though. Like, because they're really, I guess it was impressive to see, or maybe not impressive, but it was an interesting display of very, very simple horror concepts. You know, I could see what the director was going for, and I do think like experience is the best way to describe the movie because it's not really a story so much as it is like you know, a ride or more like something you go and do. You know,
I
thought some of the visuals were actually pretty good too. Like, you know, a very, very effective use of like just barely being able to make something out, but still generate something creepy out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the part at the end was pretty creepy. And the part where the kid has to look under the bed with a flashlight. Well, that was kind of felt like it was going to be creepy, but then it didn't have a payoff. But
yeah.
But still, I felt almost like something creepy could happen.
What else? I guess it was well acted.
Was it?
It's hard to say. It wasn't acted badly.
They did create, I think, did an okay job creating like what a child's perspective nightmare might be. I don't know.
I'm not even sure. You and I actually had like disagreements about even that aspect, which we're on the positives of it. So don't necessarily want to get into that bit, because to me that was actually a thing I was not really sure on.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know too much about the director. I can't do any more positives. I'm done with that game.
Okay, good, because.
But from what I read online, it sounds like he mostly did YouTube videos of people's nightmares, and then this was a really common nightmare, so he made it into a feature-length film. I think it would have been much, much better as a short film.
I agree.
And so I wonder if he really didn't have like the content for a feature-length film, but felt like he really wanted to do one, And
See, I'm not sure about that, because to me, when I think of Skinamarink, my first take on Skinamarink, I actually thought of one of Brandon's videos where he sort of made a point of like, when you're waiting for that jump scare, like that's the scariest thing, because the unknown is the most afraid of thing, never, or the thing people are most afraid of, never show the monster, because your imagination is scarier than what somebody else could create. And as long as you're waiting for that jump scare, like the tension never ends. It almost seemed like it almost seems like if Chat GPT came up with a horror movie in to that end, where it just took some of the basics of horror and tried to make a movie out of it, where the angles are always off, so you can't quite see what's happening. It's grainy, so your vision's bad. There's darkness everywhere. You're trapped in. You're isolated. You're helpless. Like it's like somebody took all the elements that generally make for a good horror movie, but didn't do anything to make it into a story or to actually fit them together to anything coherent.
Yeah.
Or just overdid the amount of suspension, because after a while, like if it was the point of the movie, that extra hour that I think it had, which maybe even that might have been too long. Like 30 minutes may have even been too long. But if that's what the point of it was, I was bored.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, is I feel like even the moments that were good were so wrapped in like such a thick layer of nothing from my perspective. Like I know it's somebody's art, and art is super subjective, but it made it so I didn't even get to enjoy the better parts, because I was just like, when is this going to be over?
Yeah, honestly, like part of what I think part of what makes a story scary is the people involved in the story actually being scared, because then it's that's part of what helps with the suspension of disbelief. Like if you're in a scary situation, or you're watching a movie about a very scary situation, like Pitch Black is a weird sort of horror movie, because Vin Diesel isn't really like terrified at any point in the movie, right? He still acts carefully, or like, Terminator 2, like it's still kind of the same horror movie concept, but it's not as scary now, because like, oh, well, we got a Terminator 2 now. So if you're not really experiencing the fear that the characters are, like, it changes the experience. And there was so little from either of the two main characters, that I wasn't even sure that they were scared.
Yeah, well, and one thing we talked about is, because it's from like a nightmare idea of being like a small child left alone, you know, in the creepy house. And neither of us had that. Well, I guess the opposite. Like, I had that experience so much as a child that, like, that was very normal and not creepy to me.
Yeah.
So it was like, it wasn't a fear I could relate to at all. And like you were talking about, you and your brother would be like excited to be left home alone.
Yeah.
And it would be like, yeah. And
maybe
so,
not at 4 and 6, which is the age of the characters in the movie, but like it was just never a fear that either of us had.
yeah. So, well, and we felt like the siblings not talking to each other, and even like they said they were playing, but they were playing like completely silently. You know, it was like,
Yeah, that was something that really bugged me because, like, I mean, you were an only child. Well, I mean, you effectively grew up an only child, right?
on and off, yeah.
And like me, I've always had my brother, and whenever we were left home alone, we would never shut the fuck up that much. Like we would constantly be talking, we would be doing things, we would be interacting quite loudly and quite boisterously.
Yeah.
And I just find it hard to imagine any situation where I've even been around children, and like it's very rare to see any child that can speak that doesn't speak.
Yeah. And I recognize that there's people in like culturally different situations, but I also felt that about the movie Lamb.
Yeah.
Like the married couple, you know, would go like such long swaths without speaking. And I'm like, who are these people?
And I mean, like,
and I liked that movie, but still, like that part, I was like,
and I mean, like, you know, some people are quieter than others, and sometimes, like, you know, we're not always talking to each other or bullshitting. Sometimes when you've been around each other enough, you just let the silence sit a little bit. But like this movie needed some dialogue. There wouldn't just I found it hard to believe that there wasn't more dialogue, that there was this little dialogue. And I think I read something later where, like, apparently they weren't. And this might get into one of the other issues I had with the movie, but apparently they weren't just trapped in there for like an evening. It was over a very long stretch of time, which I didn't pick up on when I first watched the movie at all. I was under the impression like, oh, is this taking place over the course of an evening, or I just assumed that, and then I was confused when it showed 561 days later or something. Like, what does that mean?
yeah.
Wouldn't they have died of starvation by then? But still, like, no talking whatsoever in that period. They have no thoughts. Like, even 4 and 6-year-olds are going to have thoughts about, like, what the hell do we do? Are they ever coming back? Or should we eat all the food or something? Like, I'm kind of sick of the frosted mini wheats. Like, let's eat something else.
Yeah, I had no clue it was more than one day.
And that leads into the other thing that bothered me about the movie. And maybe I'm just a moron, so take that for what it is. But I had a very hard time following what was going on in the movie. Apparently, there was a bit where, like, you know, showed a light on the Barbie doll, and that freaked the little girl out. I thought, like, okay, so is that on the floor now? She just shined the flashlight on the floor now for some reason, and apparently it was on the roof.
Oh.
Apparently there were bits where their toys got moved to the walls, and, you know, things just got moved into places where they couldn't normally sit. So that was supposed to, I guess, show that other weird shit is going on in the house.
I did not pick. I thought it was all weird camera angles.
And that's the thing. Like, I had with the weird camera angles and everything. Like, there were even parts where supposedly they were walking on the ceiling at one point. I thought, like, okay, are we just doing a weird upside down camera angle of the damn ceiling now? Like,
upside down shots of ceilings always make me think of the Rugrats video game, because there was a level where the house was upside down. So like, but I didn't catch that the kids were walking on the ceiling. I thought it was just the camera was upside down. Like,
and for me, that goes back to like just the overuse of those weird angles with the camera where like you don't even necessarily see a room at many times. Sometimes you're looking at a fucking corner while the kids are like, and the only light is the illumination of the television or something.
yeah. Also, what was up with the lights? Like,
yeah, they never flipped any switches on either. It's like, why?
The flashlights they had one, they didn't have one, but there was no like indication of like, oh, my flashlight has quit working. It was just like, oh, this time I didn't choose to have a flashlight.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like if those things were supposed to exist, like, it was not communicated through the film.
And if this film, I guess that, because now that I've understood that it's supposed to take place over multiple days, like, that makes it even weirder. Because like, how's the TV still on? How's the flashlight still working by the end of the week? You know, like what's, and I guess the theory is that it's like the demon or entity that's like torturing them can just do whatever. So it's, I guess, giving them just enough light to choke themselves with or whatever, or to see scary shit. But
how did the movie communicate that it was over multiple days? Like, besides that part near the end where it's like,
well, apparently there was a part earlier on where they said, I think it's time to get up now. But that's the thing, like, there's so little dialogue that like bits like that, I have a hard time imagining children like interacting with each other like this, and like there not being more dialogue about what's going on. And especially over 561 days, the question had to have been posed between the two of them at some point of like, how long do you think we've been in here?
Yeah. Well, and that's like one of the things when you said the acting was good, I was like, what? Because they never showed the kids' faces or anything. And so the little bit of dialogue that there was, I remember thinking during the movie, like, the way they have this set up, the little kid could be standing there reading a piece of paper saying the line, you know, like,
yeah,
it didn't feel like, and there wasn't like emotion or anything going on from my receival. So
yeah. So like, and then the sound too was a choice, but it also had its own problems where there were like, a lot of the time, like, I think there were bits that were supposed to be like creepy things that the entity is saying or something, or, you know, those whispers in the dark. But the whole time I was like, what? Did you crank the volume up? Like, did I miss that? Like, did I forget to put captions on?
Weird captions that are only there for like half the shit that gets said, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
like, all of these things are like, I see where they can be effective elements of making a horror movie where like you just hear whispers, you know, you see something, but you can't quite make it out. Your orientation is off. Your sense of time is gone. You know, you're just waiting in terror for something. But all of these things together from a movie perspective just took me out of it, and I couldn't follow anything that was going on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and the like Star Trek original series music with the disappearing doors. If there was more of that, I could have found it fun as like camp or something. But it just was like, what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean that was yeah, remembering that bit, it's like this is like supposed to be tense, but like that sound effect and like the like what the fuck? This is like some Tommy Wiseau shit now. Like why the sound effect? Why is it coming in? Are they seeing it like reappear and disappear to like, there was a window here, but not anymore?
But, and I don't even feel like it was clear that the movie was like child POV completely either.
Some of it definitely wasn't. Some of it definitely seemed to be like looking under the bed seemed to be child POV.
Yeah.
Or do you just mean like in general, like we're almost like we'll say a 5-year-old.
Well, yeah, I'll say like
a 5-year-old sitting on their shoulder, like what's going on?
Sometimes it was really clear, like you said, like looking under the bed scene. But when we're just like looking at the toilet disappear and reappear, are we the child standing there looking at the toilet disappear and reappear, or are we like audience members seeing that that's going on in the house and the kids have no clue that happened or not? You know, like
yeah. Yeah, and
I will say I went to bed like a fucking baby. Well, babies don't sleep that well, but you know, like I went to sleep easily and
like a well-rested baby.
Yeah, no nightmares from this movie. Not like the fucking Blink Man or whatever.
Yeah, I even woke up in the middle of the night, went to the bathroom no problem, and went back to bed. Heard a sound like, yeah, well, whatever, that'll tire itself out. Slept just fine.
I do. So I guess what I'm kind of interested in talking about is the mixed reactions to the movie. Like some people seem to really love it. We couldn't stand it. It seems like really a love it or hate it movie.
Well, you know? And like the Rotten Tomatoes score seems to be is very interesting, where I think critics gave it like 71%, and then audiences were like at 44%. And from everything I've heard, everybody either like thought this was the scariest goddamn movie in existence, or they were pretty much like, you know, us and your dad.
And yeah, it is kind of a weird thing because I don't want to like discount people's like true thoughts or things like that, you know. But when I'm reading some of the critic reviews, I'm wondering like, is it one of those things that they know so many people will hate it that it's like a chance to stand on a pedestal and be like, oh, you just don't get it. If you got it, then you would like it. You know, like
that's an excellent accent.
But then I'm like, am I just creating that as like a ego defense mechanism, imagining that they're doing that? You know, like it's just.
I mean, I think professional critics certainly look at things in a very different way and might be more want to like give credit for like artistic merit of various things that were done. And there's a lot of things in this movie that do seem to be very artsy. Like I do think it captured like the essence of like a dream sequence that's out there. But I think on the audience side, like on the audience side, I don't give a shit about your artistic merits or how technically savvy all of this stuff was. I either enjoyed the movie or I didn't, and that's ultimately where my thought process ends.
Yeah.
And so I do think the audience rating kind of reflects a movie that is more of an experience or a raw feeling, where people are either really going to resonate with it because it taps into something for them, or they're just not going to get it, and it's somebody else talking about their stupid dream that you don't care about.
That's a good way to put it. I do think the scariest part of the movie for me was when I asked Devin to see how far along we were in it, and it was only an hour.
No, it was 50 minutes when you first. I think we started checking the time at about the half-hour mark, though. If I'm being honest, it just.
And then when we saw the play phone, we were like, "Oh, it's almost over."
Yeah, but you lied. It still felt like it went on another half hour after that play phone.
I didn't know. I just thought that meant it was almost over. So, oh my god! And then it just felt. It was like,
get on with it.
I felt like this. I really like the movie Cloud Atlas now, but the first time I watched Cloud Atlas, it was like, okay, this is the ending. Okay, this is the ending. Okay, this is the ending. Please, when is the ending? And
fucking ended already. Like that third Lord of the Rings movie, Return of the King. Like there are like 6 different endings in that thing.
God.
And yeah, that kind of speaks. And I guess 2 things I'll say for it are, the first is that, like, my favorite movie is The Thing.
Oh wait, show your henna.
No.
We did a henna party yesterday.
It doesn't show up very well.
Get up close. It takes a long time to develop, but yeah.
It's supposed to be glow face, but my favorite movie is The Thing, and people hated that movie when it first came out. So, like, I do want to keep open the possibility that maybe this is a movie that's just a little bit ahead of its time, and it'll pick up more as time goes on, and people can get past certain elements that don't work right now, and appreciate other elements better. What
if with all the writer strikes and stuff, movies become more and more like this, like in general, and then we're old and we're like, back in my day, movies had words.
They had plots. Oh. You're supposed to do good shots, not just intentionally make the worst shot ever. Like you've given your 5-year-old the camera and he's got his fingers over the fucking lens. Yeah.
What if Skinamarink becomes a cult classic and like every little thing has something people react to it in the movie theater, like Rocky Horror or something?
Well, maybe. I mean, same thing happened for The Room. So, but
The Room was bad in a totally like. It's a totally different kind of.
I wouldn't put this in the same category as The Room, just because like The Room is so bad it's funny. This is just I mean the main Achilles heel of this movie to me is that it's too long.
Yeah.
It's way too long with not enough going on. And that would the other thing I was going to say for it, along with, maybe it'll be like The Thing and have a, gain appreciation later on. But there are a lot of really good elements in this film. The problem is there's just not enough of them. There's not enough going on.
The pacing.
And they're so spread out, or it takes so long to get to them with so little happening that by the time they hit, for me, their effects were wasted.
Yeah. When I think also what might have happened is this movie had a
$15,000
budget. Like, I think
the time for the movie got cut down.
maybe this movie wasn't supposed to be as like it's this guy's first movie, you know? It kind of went viral or whatever. So like maybe it just really wasn't supposed to have this many eyes on it. Like it's supposed to be like your first project. It's not that great, you know?
Well, apparently it was like this was actually going around to places like Sundance and everything, and it actually got leaked. So we actually saw it earlier than we were, and it was going to go for like more of a mainstream theater setting, as
That's
many
wild.
indie films do. And there's a bit here that's like, I'll say trade-offs where, or a double-edged sword, because I think it is somewhat of a shame and a problem that it got leaked for, you know, a new director who was looking forward to seeing his art go through the process. But my offhand opinion is I don't think this would have done well in a mainstream process. I think the only way this movie got as much attention and as much praise as it did is from an internet going viral environment on like TikTok and being shared around on the underbelly of the internet to reach more people. Because in a theater setting, I don't see how this movie would hold up. I think in a theater setting where you know, not in the comforts of my home, there's the realization like, man, I drove a half hour to watch this movie. I'm in my AMC recliner and like I'm just trapped here now. I've committed to this. I'm stuck, just like those children in the movie. Congratulations, you've done to me what you did to them.
It's been hundreds of days.
Hundreds of seconds. But yeah, I just don't think it would have done well in a standard environment. So I do think, because apparently it's made like $1 million or something. So I do think that, well, it's bad that it got leaked. I think it got a lot more benefit out of going an alternative route to getting known.
I agree, it got the benefit of like money and fame, but what I'm saying is I think it wasn't supposed to be seen by that many people. Like it's not that good, and it was supposed to kind of fly under the radar, and then the guy gets to make his second. It makes like just enough money for him to make a second film that's a little better or something, you know? But yeah, I'm sure it feels great for it to have blown up instead.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, even to the extent where like I can't say it's a good movie, even though like people really love this movie. I think when 50% of people hate it, 50% of people liking it doesn't make up for that. And you know, everybody has their different tastes and preferences, but like that's not typically what we'd consider a good movie. But I do think that like for, you know, a new director, that's pretty good success if you've got such a ardent following on you now, and you've got made a pretty hefty profit off of your first film too. I mean, I assume. I don't know exactly where all of that went to, but
yeah. Well, and I mean, there's movies that I love that have horrible Rotten Tomato scores.
Oh yeah, there are movies that have fantastic Rotten Tomato scores that I hate.
Well,
I mean, I think we've already said more than that movie had to say.
that was part of it. Is I felt like the movie didn't like stuff that's abstract and whatever, you know, I'm down for, but I didn't feel from watching it or from reading anything that the director had to say about it, like that it was trying to express something deep or anything like that. Like, yeah. Like, what was that thing you were talking about? Like the creature being the mom
Oh yeah,
or whatever. Like,
possible it's a representation for bad relationship with mom or something.
yeah, like, but I guess the movie didn't communicate that many days had gone by, and it didn't communicate all kinds of things. So, but yeah,
Well, and you know, like I said, that's another one where maybe I'm willing to just admit that I'm an idiot. Doesn't change how I perceived the movie. It doesn't make the movie any better to me because like I know why I didn't pick up on those things, and it's because everything about it was so jarring and off kilter. Like I don't know how anybody was able to tell the fucking roof from the carpet. I don't care if you know one is clearly carpet and the other's solid wood. Like, you know, there was no reason to take any camera angle for granted or as like a you know a any kind of reasonable point of reference at all.
yeah. I do think, like, actually, I feel pretty positive. If we hadn't started this podcast and we're not watching this movie to talk about it on the podcast, I would have not finished the movie.
Yeah, I would have not finished the movie.
Yeah. So I really hope our 0 viewers appreciate the suffering.
Oh, it grossed 2 million.
Wow.
I just need to know how much time it was originally supposed to have. I have to know because like 100 minutes is way too long and like what did you cut it down from? I thought I heard it was like 158 minutes or something.
God.
But I might have misheard that and it was originally supposed to be like 118 or something.
Let us know what movie you think we should watch next. I wish we had spent those minutes rewatching Beau is Afraid.
You know, funny enough too, you know what other movie is 100 minutes? The Thing. I could have watched my favorite movie instead of this movie. Just saying.
Oh, maybe you could do it like TikTok style where you have Skinamarink and The Thing on at the same time and it actually helps you pay attention to Skinamarink better.
Maybe. Yeah, I can't find it. I saw it in a YouTube video.
Oh, we're done. I never want to think about this movie again.
But we didn't make an hour. Well, that movie shouldn't have made an hour either.
Yeah.
We've already given this movie more time than it should have run.
This video is already longer than the movie should have been.
I mean, honestly, like, there's just not that much to talk about it either. It's way too long with not enough going on.
I would talk about it again if we had somebody who loved the movie as a guest or something.
Like, get Brandon on?
Yeah, maybe.
Would he be able to, though? Because he's so scared of it.
I do not know. But thanks for joining us. I'm Benzie Holler.
I'm Devin Holler.
And this is the Holler Horror 40 Minutes. Subscribe, like, become my friends.